Yeah, I mean, in my adult life, I have to go back, I don't know, 25 years to the horror of a football game that was yesterday. It's horrendous football, Boomer.
It is, and especially offensively. You play a game and you think that you're going to win the turnover battle. You should be able to win the game, especially against a team that's hamstrung themselves at quarterback. You lose a game by Tyler Huntley. They have a hard time completing passes. I think it kind of tells you exactly where your team is and just how, I don't know, it's just offensively they're poorly constructed. They just don't have great players, and some players who are probably reasonably good at wide receiver aren't getting a chance to show what they can do, just simply because their passing game right now is about as inept as anybody in the NFL.
The temptation is to look at Bill and Gerard Mayo and compare them, and we do that. We do that all the time here. Is 12 penalties, 104 yards. Is that something that would happen under Bill Belichick?
I'm sure it happened a couple of times. I mean, sometimes, especially in the NFL these days, with the lack of practice, the lack of accountability by some of the coaches in this league, and I'm not saying Gerard is one of those guys, but I just think that, we've seen this time and again, week in and week out, there are teams that look like they are disinterested. And I think the defense actually played well for the Patriots yesterday. Why wouldn't they have, especially against Tyler Huntley? But the offense is just basically non-existent. It really, I mean, the passing game is which the entire league is built on, by the way. And you saw offenses finally explode yesterday as we start entering now, the part of the season where preseason is over with. Teams have played together now for a while, and they're putting up a lot of points. But the Patriots right now, and I told you this at the beginning of the year, while all the players seem to love Gerard Mayo, everybody knows in the NFL that the Patriots do not have a passing game what to speak of. And that's, like I said, really what the entire league is built on, maybe with the exception of a couple teams like Baltimore with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson just dominating games on the field.
So, Puma, what the hell are they waiting for? I mean, we get into this every single week. At one point in time yesterday in the game, you had more rushing yards by your running back than the quarterback had throwing yards. So, what are they waiting for?
Again, I just keep saying I think they're just waiting to put him in. We're talking about Drake May, I'm assuming.
Yes.
They're just waiting to put him in at the right time, and they just do not want. Listen, they don't want to stunt his growth. I know it sounds ridiculous. I know that there were reports of a possible mutiny in the locker room. I don't know if that's true or not. I could believe that if you were a young wide receiver on this team and you weren't getting the ball and you feel frustrated and you want another guy out there to see if he can get something done, maybe like, on a broken play or something, they can throw the ball down the field. So I don't. You have to ask Gerard what he's waiting for, why Drake May's not on the field. I thought this was a game possibly, especially in the second half, that would have done this, but. It's just hard to really put your finger on as to when they're going to go with Drake May, and as I said, it can't be any worse than it is right now.
Well, Boomer, I was just going to say, in your many years in New York, I'm sure you've dealt with teams that are dealing with a bad vibe in the locker room. You bring up the mutiny. You have other players calling out each other, saying that they're playing selfishly. How does a Patriots team like this, that's in a downward spiral, correct course and make sure that it's not players going against each other or going against a team or coach with a mutiny?
Well, it is impossible unless you start winning. And, winning is the only way to actually get this thing straightened out. And now you got the Texans coming to town, and then you got the Patriots, and then you got the Jaguars. You got to go to the Jaguars over in London. I mean, these next two games are not going to be easy for them, especially with the fact that the Texans have an offense that can go up and down the field. Now, I know Nico Collins got hurt yesterday, but they still have a number of weapons that can beat you down the field. Their defense is a lot better than the defense that they played yesterday, I could tell you that. So that's not going to be easy. Going to London's not going to be easy. And then they have the Jets and then the Titans. I mean, it is going to be hard. It's going to be hard for them to get out of this death spiral that they're in. And the only way you can do it is winning. And the more losing you do, the uglier it gets on offense. the more intensity there is in the locker room and the harder it is to come out of this. I mean, for 20 years, we literally have been talking about how great this offense has been because of the quarterback and the coach and Josh McDaniels. We are so far away from that. We are on the other end of the spectrum. It's almost impossible to watch. And I think yesterday was probably one of the first times that Gillette wasn't sold out in the last 15 years.
Yeah, 100%, I would say. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they may call it a sellout. They may sell to, I don't know. But you look at, it's just a completely, never mind, you brought up Brady, you brought up Belichick. The entire organization was looked at that way around the country, Boomer.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and it was the standard bearer. Everybody wanted to be like them. Everybody started to hate them because they were so good and they were just so, I don't know, detailed. The whole thing was good. And they had players, but, when you have a good solid offensive line and you have a quarterback who can manage everybody and manage the game, and basically take the game over in the fourth quarter, that's how you win. Right now, Jacoby's just hanging on by a thread, and he's just trying not to make a mistake, and he doesn't barely throws the ball down the field. So there is no, for a defense playing against the Patriot offense, there is no worry about getting the ball thrown over your head. You don't have to worry about it. You can put 8 guys in the box and try to stop Stevenson, and then do another 3 and out and punt, and they're trying to play field position. If there were a game for them to win, yesterday was that game. With Jalen Phillips out, with Tyler Huntley playing quarterback, the Dolphins' offense completely stunted. This was the game. And it was unfortunate it didn't happen for them. And this is one of the reasons why you have the bickering in the locker room, because that's exactly what losing does. It's a losing mentality, and it's almost impossible for the coach to overcome that.
Boomer, your Maryland brother on the Patriots broadcast, Zoe, said it was the worst loss post-Brady yesterday. And I think it's for all the reasons you just listed. I would just, as a Patriots observer, I'm not expecting this team to be great again for a while. It was a great run. We're all grateful for it. But I just look at Robert Kraft and the finances of this organization. You can be better than what they are, and all it would have taken was a little more money on the coaching staff and a little more money on the offensive line, and you have a team that may have 3 wins at this point.
Yeah, listen, it always starts at the top, and, for the longest time, Bob Kraft was the biggest supporter of Tommy and Billy. And Tommy and Billy kept that organization together no matter who they brought in, no matter how much money they saved by getting rid of guys like Ty Law and Richard Seymour at the height of their careers, and they were still able to win. This is I think they have committed to starting over, and it all begins with Drake May. You see what Jaden Daniels doing in Washington. So that quarterback, and Caleb Williams yesterday, by the way, and Bo Nix, all 3 won games yesterday, but all 3 are the future of their respective franchises, and their fan bases are really starting to galvanize around those quarterbacks, and that's why it's so important. And hopefully Drake May will get on the field, and he'll show some of the excitement that these other 3 quarterbacks are showing, and the Patriot fan will then re-engage around that player. My own feeling is, when I look at these other teams who these other quarterbacks are playing with, whether it be coaches or players around them, the Patriots aren't even remotely close to those other 3 franchises. And I can't believe I'm even saying that.
Yeah.
Just because of the history. So Drake May's the future. When he gets on the field finally, that's what's going to either ignite the fan base, or it's just going to get worse as the season goes on. And then the offseason is going to be really, really important for them for 2 reasons. One is going to be, how much money are they going to be spending in free agency? The Patriot fan can believe in the ownership and who they draft in the draft, because they're going to have a top 5 draft pick, obviously.
All right, time for the question of the week for Boomer, brought to you by McFarland Energy, the region's most dependable provider of home heating oil delivery and expert HVAC services at McFarlandEnergy.com. Boomer, how much of the dysfunction...
Actually, the Patriots need some McFarland Energy.
Amen.
How much of the dysfunction, if there is any, between Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh is responsible for the Jets' issues?
I just think the Jets lack any creativity offensively. And Aaron's 40 years old. He's getting the crap beat out of him in the last 2 games. He's gotten hit pretty good. And that lack of creativity is because this is the way Aaron wants to play offense. You know, if he were out in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan or down in Miami with Mike McDaniel or even with Ben Johnson in Detroit, it wouldn't be like this. You'd see guys moving all over the place. You'd see a lot of different formations. The Jets are pretty vanilla. They're pretty plain. And I think that's the way that Aaron Rodgers wants it. But I also think that, you know, Rob Saleh basically has no say whatsoever when it comes to the offense. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's Nathaniel Hackett. And believe you me, they're going to be hearing it this morning. And I know that they've heard most of it yesterday already down here from their fan base. And this morning is going to be a bloodletting, I'm sure.
So, speaking of McDaniel, is it fair to question his offensive genius status based on how he's done without Tua?
Well, I would just say this: ask Bill Belichick how it feels to play without a quarterback. I mean, you know, if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win, and that's just basically the way it is in this NFL. And Tua was a surgeon with Mike McDaniel, and they were on the same page. Now all of a sudden you got Tyler Huntley, the fourth quarterback down there in the Dolphins, who's been there for 3 weeks. That's virtually impossible. The fact that they actually won this game is more of a testament to his coaching, because this would, like I said earlier, this was a game that I fully expected them to lose, and the fact that they won it, it's because of the inability of the Patriots, of course, but to go on the road in the NFL with your fourth quarterback and win a game, you know, that says a lot about the coach.
Boomer, one of the things I think is the biggest issue for us fans down here, and I don't know if you've ever seen this as a player or as an analyst, is they keep talking about the plan, but the issue, it seems like, between Gerard Mayo and Elliott Wolf, they're not on the same page when it comes to the plan at the quarterback position. As far as, I think if it was up to Mayo, he'd be playing Drake May, but it doesn't seem like it's completely up to him. Have you ever been involved where the coach doesn't have final say on depth chart and who's starting?
I hate that thought process. I think, you know, if you want to have a separation of powers, which I believe in the NFL, I think you don't want to give a coach too much power, and you certainly don't want to give a GM too much power. You want them to work in their lanes, and you hope that they can work together and they understand what the plan really is. So for Elliott Wolf, I want him to pick the players. I want him to ask the coaches, what kind of players are they looking for? What do we need? What should we go after in free agency? And what should we do in undrafted free agents? You know, what kind of players are we looking for? That's how you set the plan. Then it's up to Elliott Wolf and his group to go out and get those types of guys, whoever they are. And then it really should be up to the coach as to who is playing. I mean, because the coach has got to stand in front of the team every single day, and he's got to talk to that team. And if that team doesn't believe in what the coach is doing in terms of who is playing, then that's how you lose the respect of the locker room. That's how you have a potential mutiny happening. So the coach should always control who is playing, who's starting, and obviously the quarterback position being the most important. If he doesn't have the ability to say this kid should be playing, then that's part of the problem that the Patriots have. Now, I don't know that to be accurate. I'm going by what you said there, Wiggy, but if that is the case, that is not good.
I can't believe I'm asking this about this team, but do the Commanders have the best offense in the league?
They have the most exciting player in the league, that's for sure. You know, I'm going to say it, and I'll say it until the season is over. I just hope that Jaden Daniels makes it through the entire season. There are a lot of plays he makes that are secondary plays, which is great. I mean, he's a great athlete, and that's part of the excitement of watching him play. But I would say also that he's a kid that has a lot to learn. The thing I love about him is when you hear his post-game press conference, he's humble. Like, he's almost embarrassed that things are going so well, because I think in his heart he knows that he's not seeing everything, doesn't know everything yet. He's just reacting athletically probably about at least a third of the game and making these incredible plays. So while that's great and that's fantastic, you know, he wants to basically dial it back and be a little bit more consistent.
Boomer, the weekly Bill Belichick power rankings for jobs next year is out for me, and today it is the Buffalo Bills. The way they ended that game, I know McDermott's been very successful. I know that they probably extended him recently. But I don't know how you have an end-of-a-game clock management worse than what Sean McDermott did yesterday against the Texans.
Well, maybe you should ask Dan Campbell about what he did with the Lions 2 weeks ago. So in other words, it happens all over the week. It happens all over the league. Each and every week, we get ourselves caught up in a situation. Even the Bengals yesterday, Joe Burrow throws an interception. If he doesn't throw the interception at the end of the game, they're most likely going to win the game. So, look, I don't know. I got a Hall of Fame quarterback in waiting in terms of Josh Allen. He's been everything to me. He's done everything I've ever asked of him to do, and now I put the ball in his hands late in the game. And, first of all, the punt and where they ended up receiving the ball, I guess it was at the 4-yard line. That's a tough spot to be in, especially if you want to try to win the football game. And I think if they would have ran the ball 3 times and got no yards, people would be screaming about that. So if the players don't make the plays and they don't come through in those big moments, the coach is always going to be blamed. Now, I give the coach a lot of credit because he stood up there after the game and he said, it's my fault. I blew the end of the game just like Dan Campbell did 2 weeks ago. But ultimately, it comes back down to the players making the plays. Either they make it or the defense, in this case, the Texans, they make the plays, and that's exactly why they won.
All right, Boomer, it's got to get better because it can't get any worse. So we will talk to you again next week.
Can you say, enjoy the funeral? I mean, what do I say? I don't really know what to say to you guys.
Sympathy.
Yeah, keep your head up or something.
Yes, sympathy.